So now let's get ready to welcome our next set of speakers. The next very exciting session of the day is a conversation on the topic of content marketing, powerful ideas for measurable business strategy. Let me introduce our session members. The session is moderated by Anoop Dixit, founding partner and CEO for Culture. In a career spanning more than 22 years, Anoop has donned several hats at corporates like India Today, Aviva India, Birla Sun Life Insurance, Max Bupa and Tata AIG. At Culture, he was instrumental in developing brand building strategies for clients like DLF, Panasonic, Apollo Hospitals, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, to name a few. A digital evangelist, he is keenly following how metaverse and NFTs will shape the emerging world. Let me introduce our speakers now in the alphabetical order. We have with us Mr. Jaideep Gandhi, founder Another Idea. With over 3 decades of expertise, Mr. Jaideep Gandhi has covered business interests in advertising and marketing in the field of real estate. He is chairman of Goa Fest, India's largest advertising conclave, committee member on board of 4 national and international advertising associations, strategy advisor on board of Niranjan Hiranandani School of Real Estate, and quality control advisor at KC College. Our next eminent panel member, let me introduce Mr. Manohar, GM, Head Marketing, Geberit India. Performance-driven professional with more than 25 years of rich experience, Manohar GM has proven expertise in B2B, B2C marketing category and brand management, product management, digital marketing, sales and distribution management. Our next eminent panel member, I introduce Ms. Pooja Shetty, Head Marketing and Communication, Temprite, South Asia. Pooja is a digital evangelist at Lubrizol Corporation, and a customer-centric data-driven approach to her marketing strategies bring relentless success to the brands she has worked with. Our next panel member is Saurabh, DGM Marketing, Havells, India. And Saurabh is a seasoned digital marketing professional with working experience of more than 14 years and a proven track record of enabling brand transformation through digitization of consumer decisions journey through implementation of marketing CRM, with the help of AI and machine learning. Our next and final member of this session is Mr. Sunder Venketraman, Head of Creator and Content Ecosystem at Josh. Sunder is currently responsible for spearheading the short video ecosystem beyond mainstream content categories at Josh. Armed with over 17 years of experience, Sunder specializes in business and strategy-oriented functions backed by a rich understanding of the content ecosystem. I now request our moderator to please take over the proceedings. This is our eminent panel for today. Anoop, over to you now.
Thank you so much, Sapna. I'm really honored and excited to be part of this great panel of people. I think we have a fair mix of people from different industries, from agencies and brand side. And I think it's already looked like a great discussion for me. If I look back in the last decade, I think one of the 2 most overused and abused words, so to say, it's my personal view, is one is digital transformation, and the second is content. And whenever you used to talk about content, the first thing which people used to say is about content is king. And when the people say content is king, it's like, so it's reached to the level that you start bleeding by the hearing this simple line, So that's where we are at a stage right now. And when you talk about content, I think the 2 parts of content, one is the consumption side of it, and the second is the creation side of it. Especially in the last 2 years, the consumption side has seen a huge uprise in terms of the way people consume content, be it the type or the form. There's a uprise in terms of OTTs, there's an integration over and getting into a different level. Topical is the key right now. And how much we used to say earlier, but metaverse is a reality. We are just waiting to see how it's unfold and how the people will take content on the metaverse side. Right? That's on the consumption part of it. The moment you go on the creation side of it, I think it's a golden era. I think we are looking at creators, we're looking at platforms like TikTok, Facebook, where we have creators from tier 2, tier down. And every month we witness 1 or 2 celebrities coming out of nowhere. We have a guard who's a singing sensation. We have a dancer from a huge remote town of Haryana becoming the sensation overnight. And there are enough and multiple stories every day in terms of creator side. Also for the fact that when you talk about content, it's both time consuming. It's also in terms of you have to infuse money to generate content. And if you look at today's era, it's a golden time again in terms of monetization of content. We see there are YouTube marketers, there are people, content creator who's making more money than companies outside now. And that's where we are. And the moment we talk about content, it's also come out to the fact that we are in an era of information overload. And that's where we are as an audience right now. And this also comes up, so to say, there's the right question that what is the difference between a content and an information? And that's a first fundamental question that every marketeer has to answer. And I think this is where I would like to start the entire discussion. And thank you everyone to the entire panel. To taking up time in a busy midweek and being a part of this. And to start this, I request Jaideep sir, and I think it's with all humbleness, and I think it's fair for me to say that he's one of the guys who consumed the maximum amount of content in the entire panel, right? And I'm just a little behind, but we can easily safely say that from the Doordarshan time to Chitrahar to Rangoli, and I know a lot of people on the panel might be, and a lot of listeners won't understand what Rangoli and Chitrahar may be. I'm sure he has seen the birth of Google and Facebook and to where we stand now, and looking at the metaverse knocking at doors. I think he's been there, done it, seen it all. So I think I'll open up this conversation with asking Mr. Jaideep and asking, sir, so what is the fundamentally, the difference between information and the content for you? And thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Thank you, Anoop. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So it was a great respect you gave me in introducing me. It was an honor. Coming back to your principal question about the difference between information and content, I think the best example right now in front of us is Realty Plus. What they are creating and where we are all today. It's a content piece. It's not information piece. So first of all, congratulations to Sapna, to Tripti, and everybody at Realty Plus for curating such a good event, and that's all about content. Having said that, what I believe is, I also tell my teams that information is a single dialogue and content is a two-way communication. So it's like going on your first date, and when you talk about only yourself, you're sure to have no second dates for sure. That's the difference between information and content. In real estate space, if I have to give an analogical example, information is like a park and content is like a Disneyland, because it engages, it gives you fun, and it makes you memorable. So having said that, unfortunately, because I've seen real estate from last 40 years, and somewhere we have not understood that thin line between information and content. Okay, for us, including all our agencies, we feel keeping up the project updates, offering the schemes, that is information. Okay, now that's not information. That's not content. That's information. So that the thin line needs to be understood, because keeping in mind the consumer's mind frame on social media, is he ready to consume information, or he wants to consume content? Now that's where the line is, which we need to understand while creating it. Like it's a form of communication, and in communication, that it's about, if you tell me the facts, I will learn. If you tell me truth, I will believe. But if you tell me a story, I'll remember. So that is where we need to draw the buckets and where we want to put our content into place. And it's all about engagement. So are we engaging our customer, or we are just informing him? Is where the line is. And information to me is about telling the customer what you want to say, and and content is what he actually wants to hear. So we are not working on the other side. We're working only on that side where what we want to say. This is the location, this is the product, these are the schemes. But does he want to say that? Does he want to hear that? He wants to hear something else. So That is the content piece which is yet to be unleashed in real estate, is what I would feel. Yeah.
So what is the experience, so to speak, in terms of the last 2 years? How people create content and how to curate content? Because when you look at real estate, and one of the biggest challenges, it's majorly driven by a sales collateral, right? It's majorly driven by the information. But at the same time, we have seen that the companies who have worked brands on the parallel have reaped a lot of benefits. And I don't know, take note, but enough and more. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the enough and more example in terms of when you want to get your customer acquisition cost down, the brand has to kick in at some point of time. You really just can't, have those experiences till the time the brand can get into the play. So the last, especially when you look at the pandemic, can you share some light in terms of what the difference part in terms of creating a content and curating a?
Yeah. So I think all the creative agencies who work for real estate have had the best time during COVID, because clients gave us total freedom, and we could engage with. So we engage with customers. So that's how it. For example, give you example about Hirandani Gardens Pavai. So when we were working on that brand during COVID, we engaged with customers. We made them, create content, which was very interesting because it came right from the heart. And what happens is when we create information, like when we put up our information, it appeals to the mind. And when the opposite person who is using your product creates information, content, it appeals to the heart. So we never say, we always say, कि ये बात दिल को छुई और दिमाग में रह गई. It's not the other way around, कि दिमाग को छुई और दिल में रह गई. So that line, and that's where the base is. We have to keep the customer in the center. That's why I always say, if you use your users as content curators, you will not need influencers. The people who are using your product are the best creators of your content for you. So I think we should stop creating content. You have to you should start observing it. It's all there. Every home buyer has a beautiful story. It is in his eyes. The content is in his eyes, in his aspirations. So we need to look there. And I don't understand the fundamental formula of how can you create content. You can observe, you can have insights, and with those insights, there's a big idea which creates content. You can't create content. It's all out there. All you do is just hear, listen, and absorb it, and then just tell it in a very interesting manner. So yes, having said that,
also just to add on here, I think there's a great saying from the Andy Warhol, which he says, you always have that 15 minutes of your fame once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And when you look at an average real estate player, if you have 10,000 families living in your condominium, I think you just need those 200 people who need those fame. They're a right audience and they have enough in mind. They might be influenced to other brand already. And just to go and handle those people, and that's how I think
a child who plays in your garden, in your own complex, he's the best content creator, and the way he will explain to you the features of that garden, nobody else can do it. So, like a wife who's bought a home and is living in that home, she could be the best content creator. So we should stop. So if you want to create good content, I think change the creators. There's a new approach which we should take. So we have done enough.
Also, it will be save you some money as well.
Yeah.
That's an effective way as well, right? True. Great. Thank you so much. Moving on to Manohar. Manohar comes from a huge background of customer journey and product management from Geberit, and I think we jumped onto the part of the curation and content, but there's a fundamental question which I would like to ask Manohar, that how in the COVID-19 the content marketing redefined. Let's go back a step backward and just Manohar, your views in terms of how the marketing redefined in the age of COVID. A very cliched question, but we can't ignore this because I think it has to start from this point to have the right foundation as well. So Manohar, what do you think?
Thank you, Anoop. Hope I'm audible to you.
Yes.
So I wish good afternoon to all my panelists and to the audience. To answer to your question, my perspective would be See, pandemic has taught us one thing, to embrace uncertainty and beat the uncertainty. And we all have learned it is a human spirit which came across across the sections of society. And thanks to that human spirit, that we could not only overcome those challenges, but then we also embraced it and adapted it, and then we learn how to do businesses, and we also learn how to manage both personal and business. So on that note, pandemic has influenced consumer behavior in a large way. Uh, the businesses operate has also seen a paradigm shift during the course of the pandemic and post pandemic as well. Now, one thing I would mention that during the course of the pandemic, what we have learned is agility, the importance of agility. Importance of agility in decision-making process, importance of agility, the way we communicate to the our customers and end consumers, and the significant amount of energy is been the influence of the digital tools. So we really understood the power on the power and influence of the digital tools, and which helped us to connect with the consumers and with at that speed. And how do we scale up our communication? So these are the two aspects which pandemic has started. But also, when I say that there is a significant influence to the consumer behavior also, we have learned and understood during the pandemic that the way the consumer buying behavior changed. In terms of the customer journey, it is the same. It is the awareness to consideration to planning to the decision making and the purchase and the post purchase. But then the significant amount of the time spent by the consumer online in terms of accessing the information increased. So in the pre-purchase cycle, the significant amount of the consumer spending time on online is increased. So that is what we have seen it. And as brands and organizations, we all have adapted to ensure that we engage them meaningful during this course of their customer journey. That is one aspect. And then if you come to the insights, the customer, what we have understood is we were only focusing pre-pandemic. Before the pandemic, we were focusing more on understanding the demography of the customer. What is the age group? What is the profile of the target audience? But now, during the pandemic and post-pandemic, it is not the importance of the customer profile. It is the customer segment as such, which means when I say it is not only about the demography, which we have to segment it and categorize it, but we also have to see that what is the commonality of the different age groups. When I say, for example, there is a certain set of customers who are interested in more of sustainability aspects, correct? Irrespective of the age group. There is a certain category of customers who are more interested in the cause, related topics. There's a segment which is interested from an experience point of view. And when we think from a brand perspective, and so if I agree to Jaideep sir when he spoke that content is about a two-way process, correct? When information is not content, because information is one way. That is what we all as a product organizations learn, that the impact of brand will be more visible when we communicate, make it a two-way process. And that is why during the pandemic we learned that how do we enrich our content, how do we enrich our customer engagement through whatever we are doing. So therefore, so we understood the commonalities of the particular segment where we are catering to, and then how we from a brand perspective, how do we emotionally connect with them. So these are certain things which brought about a change in our thinking, and then we accordingly adapted to this demand by first changing our structure. When I say change the structure means how do we change the structure of your online and offline, correct? So how do we bring in a synchronization or harmonize our online engagement versus offline engagement during the customer journey process? So post pandemic, whatever we learned during the pandemic, we try to get that insights and try to manage the online versus offline. So post pandemic, what we are focusing is more of a hybrid way of marketing, which I call it as phygital. So it is a marriage of physical tools as well as the digital tools. And then as marketers, depending upon our products and the business model, we have to be very cautious that because we also have seen that it's too much of bombarding of digital content to the consumers. They are bored of. So therefore, post-pandemic, we have to be very cautious that how do we choose the tools, whether it is online or offline tools, and at which stage of the customer journey we communicate more in digital, okay, or on which stage of the customer journey we connect them to physical formats. So that becomes very important. So that is a very key learning which we are trying to implement now. And when I say, I can give an example. For example, if it is a B2C customer or it's a B2C consumer, so he will spend more time because his behavior has changed. Earlier, he used to walk into the store 3 to 4 times in a retail store, but now when he wants to understand more of the information and for his planning purpose, he is depending upon the online tools, correct? So there we have to aid him. What kind of tools we aid him? We send him not only on the product information, but on the brand videos, and how do we enrich it through the creative mechanism. And we are also have converted our, we are coming out with a lot of these virtual showrooms, correct, where the end customer can navigate it, experience the product, which he used to do earlier in a physical environment. So after that, not only that we pass on the content to him, but also we have to see that how we engage them so that it helps him in planning process. So we have this BIM tools for the architects and consultants, for which is a B2B customer who is a key influencer for brand. Correct. So we aid him for decision making process because he's also key influencer to the end consumer. Then what happens is then during the planning process, the planning stage, the end consumer is aware that okay, and he is aware that I want to go with this particular brand. Now after that, we have to induce him to go to the right channel, right store, or right physical format, depending upon the business, and then he makes a visit to the store. And therefore, after that, it is a physical tools. Now, after the purchase process is over, then again we have to make him advocacy. Customer advocacy becomes important. So then, how do we engage with him on online? So this is for a B2C consumer, and then for a B2B customer who is in building fraternity, he can be an architect or a consultant or a builder. For him, the tools has to be different because for him, it is about information, it is about planning, it is about specification, it is about recommending the right product to his client, and then it is purchase behavior.
In a way, it is
to summarize it, what the pandemic has taught us about bringing about agility, and then it has helped us to relook at our structure and the way we communicate, whether it's a B2C consumer or whether it's a B2B customer. So this is my.
I think it is Manohar, safe to assume that mapping the entire customer journey with the help of both content as well the right tool is the key, and how we track between online and offline, and make it a seamless journey for a customer, because customer doesn't understand what is online offline. For him, the journey is the journey. How to actually integrate both the journey seamlessly is where the game is. I mean, thank you so much, Manohar. I think it's a great point. Moving on to Pooja, who heads the entire marketing for Lubrizol, and she comes with a very customer-centric, data-driven approach. And Pooja, there's a question to you. What do you think in terms of the long-term changes in a consumer behavior? Because we've seen too much of data overload, too much of choices. Customer at the center of everything, and I'm sure there's a huge and long-lasting impact on the consumer behavior. So what do you think post-pandemic, what are the major changes, so to speak, in terms of consumer behavior, which as a content creator, we need to be watchful for?
Thank you so much, Anoop, for this question. I think it's a much needed question that we need to ask ourselves as a marketer, whether the content that we, as you said, content is the king, but I think in the recent times, contest is the queen. If your content is not relevant to the audience and to the occasion, it hardly matters.
After this panel, we retire the king and queen for sure, Please continue, sorry, just don't like that.
Right. So one of the interesting trends that we can see right now is about personalization and the micro moment, capturing the micro moment. So although we are living in the world of, connected devices, like we have mobile phones, we have tablets, but still our consumers, they don't feel connected, they still feel lonely. And this has given rise to, community building. And And most of the brands right now, like almost 80% of the brands are engaging in this kind of a trend about building a community around the key influencers for their brand, which actually makes them a more humanized brand. And I would like to share one of the initiatives that we have done as an organization for this particular initiative. So we launched an app called as FlowGuard Plus for the plumber community, which is a very, very niche community. I mean, when we buy a new home, or, whenever it's in real estate, we talk about the interiors of the home, we talk about the kitchen, we talk about the bathroom, like how it will look, but hardly anyone pays attention to the plumbing system, which is actually the lifeline of a new home. क्योंकि घर तो एक ही बार बनता है, right? So this is very essential, and the plumbers, they are the backbone of this or the entire ecosystem of the plumbing ecosystem. And we felt the COVID time was absolutely difficult for the plumbers, like it was for others. But at least the others, they had, there were a lot of things going on for the nurses, for the cleaners, etc. But there was hardly anything done for the plumbers. So
also, just to add on, I mean, probably COVID was the time when people started noticing the seepages in the home more than ever before, because now they're living most of the time in the home. And that's what I'm sure Manohar is itching to get into it. But Manohar, I know, let Pooja continue. Yes. So
yes.
Just to add on to it, Pooja, when you look at, I mean, a major play, and I think it's very interesting to ask you this question, that when you look at it, you have plumber, and we say plumber to your industry, or let's say, for example, a mechanic to ancillary industry. These are the people who are like kind of a doctor. What they advise is like a stamp, right? And it's very critical on how to engage to the level of plumbers, carpenter, mechanics, and those are the like the guys into the influencer segment for these people. So if a plumber say put this, I'm done. That's how it is. There's no second question asked. So how do you engage those level at the micro level of that influencer will actually decision maker? How do you engage those people?
Right. So one thing that has accelerated in the COVID times is digitization, and we have quickly moved into digital first kind of a system. But if you actually see, it is slowly moving into mobile first. And people want everything to be accessible. And if you don't have it on your mobile phone, like some examples that I can give is in the form of app. Most of the customers brands are coming up with their own apps. Also, like on Myntra, they will have themselves listed, or any other e-commerce platform, but each of them have their own apps now. Similarly, we have launched our own app called as FlowGuard Plus app. And this is for the plumber community. So we are not the end product manufacturers. We give a chemical compound to the other brands. So it's a little bit complex, but still we wanted to, have a connect with the key influencers. And this is how we did it. The next few lines, maybe you will understand. So we gave them a platform to, upskill themselves and also network with the other plumber community, which is not possible, unlikely in their daily routine. Like maximum, they will reach out to 10 plumbers. But on our app, we have something like a LinkedIn platform for them, where they showcase their skills. So automatically, we are doing a lot of user-generated content as well. And we are also educating them. We have some training modules, which we have specially developed for the plumbers, because they have no formal education system. So we have worked on few training modules specially for them. And if they learn those modules, they earn certain reward points. So earn while you learn kind of a concept is something that we have taken. And another thing is gamification. So people who don't want to learn through various modules, we have gamification feature where they play several games, like the cricket games or the puzzle game or the pipe fixing game. And every time they play a 6 or a 4, they understand about the feature.
It's amazing to see how brands are reaching out to the last mile content creator. I mean, at the lower spectrum of this thing, and as we say, language is no barrier anymore. The medium is no barrier anymore. And really, I mean, touching upon the point you said that your mostly your product is B2B to C, and so just a quick question to you. What do you think where brand has to differentiate, and what is the key factor of differentiation between a B2B content creation and a B2C? What is a thin line? What is it your take onto this?
I think nowadays it is not about B2B and B2C. It's more about having your customer achieve their primary goal. So it's important to go beyond the data or like AI and try to understand what the goal the person is trying to achieve. And if you are able to hit that bang on, I think that's the first thing that you have achieved. Second is about creating memorable experiences. So gone are the days when we thought about the product and the prices. But in today's world, the millennial consumers, they're ready to pay higher if they have a good experience with a brand. Like almost they're ready to pay around 20% more price for a brand if they have a good experience. And I think Metaverse is gonna be play a very key role in this along with AR and VR. So these are the two things.
There's enough and more buzz around Metaverse, and I'm sure it's a reality now. But also, having said that, I think it's a great time, and when you look at the entire startup ecosystem of India, especially the fintech and other players, a lot of SaaS is coming into the place, a lot of B2B, and we see a lot of disruption in B2B marketing. People actually taking it at a different level now. It's no more a rational approach. It's not a product information anymore, and we see great marketing coming on the B2B side. It's actually great to see that. Thank you so much, Pooja. I'm taking a cue from your last point where you talked about in terms of plumbers coming on to creating content and using this. This also, moved me to Sunder Venketraman, coming from Josh, an excellent leader in media and entertainment landscape. So it's a question to you when you look at plumbers, when you look at in India where every 200 or 300 kilometers the entire culture, languages, and everything change dramatically. What is your view in terms of how the language first industry, and as you rightly say, India is becoming Bharat, and what does the trend hold for 2022 onward in terms of multilingual and vernacular, so to speak, in terms of content creation? And there can't be a better person than you to answer on this panel to this question.
Actually, I'm going to take it from Mr. Jaideep. Bharat was always around us. We just chose to see India. That is the one thing. And second thing is that, like you said, change the creators will change the audience. So that's the two things that actually we did in Josh. So if you look at Bharat is not just a culture. Bharat is the true emotion of the country. You have to just, so like people like us, we wear Bharat in our t-shirts on a daily basis because we understand that Bharat means aapka jo ghar ka hai. So and the creator is the person who's actually going to just emote the emotion of the particular place. They're just the same people, So if you're going to try and make it into a kind of a very India experience, it's not going to work. I can tell you from a content media level today, some of the OTT major guys like Netflix and others are struggling in the country because they never understood the Bharat consumer. They never understood what Bharat actually means. So today, when the biggest thing that Josh did is today when we are at a number one position, we are almost at a 85 million daily active user, is that we chose 14 different languages and we actually make and serve content in languages differently. What you see in Tamil will not be seen in Punjab. What you see in Punjab will not be seen in Punjab.
Can you share some example on
So I'll tell you a simple example, So like Mr. Jaideep said, first the creators are not those top level creators who people look up to. These are actual common man people sitting in their villages, in their households, who we have given them a tool in the form of a camera and we've told them just whatever you think is content, make content. So somebody in Kerala is actually showcasing their grandmother's fish recipe and he feels that that's what is relevant for him. Somebody in Bangla actually is not talking about cricket, is talking about football. Somebody in the Bhojpuri language actually doesn't think about anything big about Bollywood because he literally feels that Bollywood is too high for him to go to. He thinks that the Bhojpuri Nachanya culture is actually what is worth it. Somebody in Maharashtra actually feels that instead of listening to that hip hop Punjabi culture, I want to listen to the habang which is played in my neighborhood, because that's what actually is practically drawn up to. So if you look at, like Jaideep said, we just have to look around, and if you just look around, you get the answer right there. And then try and give it to somebody else to make content is actually a bit failure. So today, if you look at the way some of our creators are, we have actually focused on something called as the micro, nano, and the macro creator. That means we've actually got them categorized. The micro guy is the guy actually is the first time holder of a phone, and he has just an expression in any form. So the Josh app does is that whenever he makes a content, we actually try and show him more in his particular region, so that when he does something, he becomes a neighborhood superstar. So when he becomes a neighborhood superstar, somebody feels that if he can do it, I can do it too. And in our world, we call it FOMO. So we just create the FOMO reverse from down to bottom. And the user automatically becomes a creator becomes a star becomes a superstar. And today, that's the journey that we're trying to follow. We're not trying to make a superstar out of anybody. The user will become a superstar. And to tell you a journey, there was this girl, many examples. 2 examples I tell you. There is a girl called Priyanka Chatterjee in Kolkata. She was a common user of Josh. We ran a campaign called as Jose Tume Superstar, where we just told her that whatever is your way of talent, showcase. And you'll actually get to be in a film soon. So Priyanka Chatterjee, background was that she came from a middle class income household. Father was a RBI banker. Mother was a teacher in the school. She had the knack of doing talking fast in the Bengali language, and she had a very good expression. And she could talk fashion from her village sense. That's what she did on the app. And today, after that entire thing experience, the last 7 months, we found her on the app. We actually got her groomed. We gave her tools. We gave her sessions from panels, sessions from creators. And in the month of November 17th, she's coming in a SBF movie release as a second lead of the actor in the movie. Now, that's the real journey that she's managed to travel. A similar example from a brand, Joy Alucas came to Josh and said that in the Kerala market, they're looking for Kerala-looking woman, Malayalis, not a model who will actually get bombarded in Ernakulam or in Cochin. So actually looking Malayalis, where we want them to figure out our wedding jewelry in a form that people have not seen. Because Malayalis love to wear their jewelry. They just love to cover their jewelry. It's their thing. But at the same time, be it their expressions, be it their skin tone, all are going to be real. So we ran. So what we did is we just did a simple experiment. We just took and imagine our content is all 1 minute and below. So imagine the constraint that we have. So we took a song called as Mama Jiva Ketuna. There's actually a song when people sing in their wedding, and we got it a bit twist. And in 30 seconds, people were able to do a transition video from being no makeup to entire jewelry. Now, when that people did that, this girl is called Purnima Mahadevan. She's today the face of Jalukas in Ernakulam coaching. We've seen all the holdings. So that's what we do. So we just look around, try and find the user, give them adequate tools, give them a platform, give them AI, because the AI should be trained daily to actually look around, to pick up who's what relevant, and try and feature them on the feed. We call them feed. The feed is just 30 seconds. And our customers are ruthless. They reject a content within 3 seconds. There's a 3-second rule. They just see one shot, wire, one sound. They don't like you. They move. So imagine our daily struggle is that we have to ensure that between the first 3 seconds, you have to ensure that the creator is absolutely bang on. And then if somebody gets that right, they automatically get a better followership, better likeness, better sharing, and so on. So then the actual dream of being a user to a superstar has been delivered. So yeah, that's.
So just to ask you, the moment we talk about vernacular and the moment we talk about multilingual, I think one of the biggest challenge which comes with it is the amount of money as a brand I need to spend, and B is the amount of time I take in producing that content. I'm sure there are ways and means and technologies now to take to speak for the journey in a most economical fashion. So can you throw some light in terms of how a brand can actually take this? Because every brand is a different journey, so to speak. Some has evolved, some have just started. But so what are the means and tools through which they can go multilingual in the shortest span of time as a go-to market, and also in the in a budgeted way?
I think my lot of my insight comes from Mr. Jaideep's single line. See, we are used to this logic of one size fits all. Somebody sits in office and writes one copy or decides one line and decides that this is going to be fitting to everybody in this country. We at Verse, which beat Delhi and Josh, realized that communication intent and creativity changes in every pin code. Every pin code is different. You cannot be customizing for a state also today. What is going to work in Tamil Nadu, in Madurai will not work in Chennai. What is going to work in Chennai will not work in, for the matter, in Kodaikanal. It's not going to work. Same in all the languages. So for us, what we did is that we have managed to build the AI in such a way that it understands the nuances of the particular communication. Like you said, we understand communication, then we try and translate that into content at scale. Because communication is different and content is different. Like Mr. Jaideep said, communicate to kar liya, लेकिन उसको ना इधर बैठा नहीं उसका अभी तक. तो बैठने के लिए you have to make the content available in that particular way, and it has to have a story behind it. You have to ensure that the common man is saying it in a way that somebody gets it right behind him, and not necessarily that everything that he says should be trendable or should have a national impact. We don't want national impact. I mean, how does a guy? I mean, for example. Why will a guy today watching Vikram and releasing in 3 days in Tamil Nadu, how does it matter that film to Chandigarh, there's no relevance, but we know as a fact that Vikram will hit the 100 crore mark within the first 2 days. But when there is something called as an RRR, where we know it's an Indian national film, we know that every language you have to customize differently. You can't be just taking it and putting it out there and figuring out and expecting people will get it. People don't get it. I mean, you have to be behind them to just give it to them when they want it to be. So that's the tool that we are trying to build in an hyperlocal avatar, be it Daily and Josh, and many of our other apps that we're building. We are true Bharat in nature. In fact, we ask people in the interviews, we ask them, do you watch Netflix? Do you watch English content? They say yes. We say reject. You don't want to, guys. We want people who understand that local language, local Bharat. And in fact, all our teams sit out of Pan India. We don't have a culture of a main center like a Bangalore or a Bombay and all. I don't think my team exists in any of these places. They're all sitting out of their places comfortably. That's what pandemic brought us. And today, sitting there, they tell us that you guys are wrong every day. So people like us wake up to AI and a feed failure every day, saying that this is not working in the feed in this language, correct it. So then we actually get the human expert and say that train the feed, train the AI. And that's the constant struggle, I'm sure that another couple of years, once that has been done, then we'll be able to go at scale. Today we are at 80 million DAOs. We're going to go at 150, 200 million DAOs soon. But the journey is huge.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sunder. I think it's a great insight and a very helpful one, so to speak. I mean, thank you so much. Moving on to Saurabh, I mean, he heads the entire digital for Havells, and also it's great to have somebody from the product side. Saurabh specializes in transformation of brands through digitization and creating customer journeys through CRM using AI and ML, so to speak. I think it's safe to assume he's one of the digital first guy in the entire panel. Born a digital native, handling digital from the day one. Saurabh, the question to you is, if you look at today, the new age consumer is very conscious about their choices and the kind of spend they make. If we go behind 5-6 years back, I mean, the biggest challenge for a consumer in an online space was to throwing up their credit card details. The entire journey of a brand start with how to convince a guy it's safe to give a credit card. And then you start working on the backward in terms of this thing. Fast forward now, people are no more bothered about their flashing their credit cards and everything on the online. It's a passe now. So what it gives more time and more energy of consumers getting into the choices which is coming on its way, that offers coming onto the way. And this is where, the entire challenge comes from a client to get into the real marketing and insight, to touch base and convert intent into a sale. So you're the last speaker, and I really want, we had a lot of discussion in terms of how the content, but I think you're the perfect person to throw a light on the tool side of it, on the tech side of it. So how can a brand try to understand this new consumer and what kind of tools they have in their hands, so how to utilize it? So I would request you, please share more on the tech and the tool side of it.
Yeah,
so
thanks, Anoop. Definitely, I will come to the tech part of it. But before that, I'm a brand guy, right? So I cannot start a brand story without, technology get integrated into it. So you rightly put it in. We heard, Bharat India debate, which is continuously being on, and also in this panel we have discussed. We also discussed about the content part. You rightly put it in that yes, the consumer has evolved, specifically in the last 5 to 6 years, where we have seen people little bit threatened to share their credit card details. Now consumers are actually searching online and buying offline, and most of them do specifically buy online also. Yes, the experience is changing a lot, and it's actually getting a lot of pressure on the brand managers, right? So yeah, tech part comes in.
Ask everyone on the panel, both on the agency and the brand side,
Yeah, so it's just not only in a TVC which you can just go and shoot and tell that, okay, this is the product you can buy, either a cement, and you say it can actually help your house to be much more stronger. No, it's not like that. It's consumer is everywhere, and it's just not only, it's going to be just seeing something and go and buy. No, they research, and they research to a level where, I take an example of an Tata Steel, which is a Saria, right? I was in a debate within a very good friend of mine on that panel. You will not believe that they sell Saria online of rupees crore, right? So people buy those stuff and do research. So it's just not about a contractor who will just come to you and say that, okay, buy that stuff for your house and this is good, I heard about it. No, it's a consumer is nowadays very, aggressive and finding out the best of what they need. We always talk about brand loyalty, right? And now brand loyalties no longer exist. It's much more. So there are two kinds of consumers. One who experience the product first, and that's the reason we see a lot of brands have now started their own, not only the brand shop, but the experience center. You go to Apple, right? They will not ask you any question till 15 minutes till the time you explore the product. So it's much more like an experience, right? Even in our cases also, we have started a project called Havells Experience Centers. We are not selling anything. When you go and buy a fan, it's just like in a box, and you just see a packaging that this is going to be a fan. But you go there and just experience how your fan will look like on a ceiling, right? How a TV would look like on a wall, how a light will look like on a ceiling. So those experiences, or maybe on ground, yeah. And when we talk about the content, and people also get a little bit of brand affinity when they see the content, either on vernacular, right? And we also need to understand the sentiments of the region and create the content that way. So these things are there, and consumer is everywhere they are there on searches, right? They figure out which is the nearest store to you. So there are multiple, line items which you always need to, as a brand manager, tick mark those things, and need to be, technically enabled all those tools, right? Either these tools are, maybe these will help you in doing your data stacking. This is going to be your first party data, how you're going to have those third party data in place, and how you're going to affluent those people, right? So when you talk about technology part, yes, from a brand per se, this is what, as every brand manager thinks, even in those, field where people really don't want to spend a lot of time. They just want to go and buy the product without having a loyalty because it's a need-based product. But yes, you really want to tell those people that, yeah, we are there, right, within this category, and we really want to, change your life with an experience. So when I say so, I give an example of Tata Steel, right? I also would like to give an example of Asian Paint Home Solutions. So what they say, they don't say that, okay, we are here to sell paints. They say we are here to serve you better for your, interiors of your house and homemaking. Yeah. And that's the reason we also say, because Havells as a brand is been to the last point of your switch, we are always there to help you out, right? So deeper into our houses is what our thought is. So from a bedroom to a drawing room, whatever you need from an electrical plug is where we are. So from a fan to a lighting to MCB to wires to kitchen appliances to water purifier to a water heater to personal grooming, whatever you need in your house, we're always there. Now coming back on what a consumer need. Consumer just not only need a product, they also need a service, right? And that service is what best for them. When I say example of Asian paints, it's just not only a paint, it's a service which comes in what looks best for you. Yeah, if they acquired Sleek, they said, okay, if you coming for a paint, you know, we also help you out in doing interiors of your kitchens also, right? And
but
if you,
by the way, it's a very abused term from the agency side, Mera Wala Paint, you know. I'm sure Jaideep will resonate with me, you know. Very touchy word, you know, for us.
yeah. So again, I'm saying, yes, content is the king, but also when we look from a consumer, the content which they are consuming, in which direction, what point of time. So as I said, if you are doing some kind of a change in your house as a decor, if I do not target that consumer at the right time, you know, I'm gone. Take an example of water purifier. If I'm not using technology and within the time frame, if I'm not telling my product to the consumer, because the window is almost like 3 to 4 days, he is in process of buying the product. If I do not touch base, right?
How do you build your audience, I mean,
Okay, so there are two parts to it. One is our own first party data, which we collect through multiple sources on our websites and on multiple handles of ours. Second is our third party data. So we have been, you know, integrated programmatic through multiple trading desks and through different SSPs also, right? And there are multiple campaigns towards it. So figure out which genre they lies into and how we can target them. And the technology and the, you know, the consumer data is so very well attached that the ROI can also be calculated in a level where I see if I spend 100 rupees, even on my third marketplace data, if I spend marketing of rupees 100, what kind of an ROI I actually got it. Right. So those kind of, you know, data points.
And also, I'm sure as a brand, we look at the different content generation basis a different data set and the customer journey in terms of where they are.
Right. So it just, for us, it's just not only when we live our campaign with the TVC, right? It's just not only a TVC. Yeah. So it's a proper storytelling. It's a content generation consumption for next 60 days for a consumer, right? So when we plan this, it's properly planned in a way that wherever my consumer goes from a website to a, you know, my social handles to maybe different multiple influencers, they get my communication very broadly, but different ways.
Right. In fact, it's amazing to see how the tech is coming into the foreplay, entire content creation as well as content amplification as well. So now we have those programmatic, and also we have a seamless customer journey where I can change my website basis the campaign. I mean, it will be different to person coming to a campaign, and it will be different to the person coming to a different media. Even I can, as a product now, we can change the tiling of a website and we can switch the UI basis the journey and everything. And I think it's an exciting phase, not only in terms of the content generation, but how you amplify the content and how you publish your content as well. Just a last quick one, just a bit. You touched upon in terms of how the world is moving from CRM to in a CXM format, right? The customer experience format. Anything on the digital content side on the CXM side as well?
See, as I said, I think I partially covered it in my previous content part.
I just want to touch on the content side of the CXM. I mean, on store definitely yes. I just want to understand: is there a possibility of the AR, VR, virtual, and that's also kind of a content which is looking? Are you into those as well?
Yes. So yes, you rightly put it, and that's the reason we have been having those technology also integrated into it, right? So though we have an on-ground experience center, but this experience center is also available on your mobile phone, right? So you can experience the entire store and even buy it through a commerce also. So this is a commerce enabled tool which help you in buying the product from those experience center and how the product look like. So this is one part of it. Second part of it is when I say commerce, commerce has also been included through an experience of a storytelling by someone else also. So it can be anyone. It can be you, me, any influencers who actually. So what we have done, we have started a project saying that, okay, as a sample, we give this to any consumer and we just feel it how they feel without telling them which brand it is. So we just get and try to, capture those. Yes. Yeah. As a gesture, and then we take it forward from there.
Thank you so much, Saurabh, for the great insight. I think before Sapna sends me a stinker on a time, let me thank everyone once again. And I think we had a great time starting from Jaideep sir, who took us about the key differentiation between the information and the content. It's great to have Manohar and Pooja who talked about how to handle the entire customer journey in terms of different content bucket. At the same time, how to handle B2B communication with a B2C customer. Also, it was great. Sunder, thank you so much. Taking us through the entire vernacular journey and how the entire machine learning AI. And I think the biggest takeaway from Sunder is you really can't have a one center for the entire India. It has to be distributed. If you have to generate a content, it has to be distributed at the place where you need to generate a content. That's a super point. And finally, thank you so much, Saurabh, to take us through the entire customer experience, how the move is happening on the customer relationship to customer experience. Before we sum up, I just have a single question. I think both from the brand and from the agency side, the fight of the single content in terms of 2 lakh views, why there's only 2 lakh impression, why there's only 100 views and there's no comment and there's no engagement. We'll continue this fight forever. That's all. But still, if I just request everyone, just one line or one bit of piece of advice for the next level of content generation for the listener, and this thing, what you would like to give? I'll start with Mr. Jaideep. What is just one golden piece of advice for you for the content generation for the listeners? Just to sum it up, one line.
Like I said, stop grading, start understanding. That's it.
Super, great. Manohar.
There is no, it is a process. It has to be evolved. There is no one fitted answer for that. We have to experiment. We have to go with iterations, and that is what digital marketing, relevance of digital marketing, we are realizing today. So it allows us to experiment and then learn and move on and do the course correction. So I think digital marketing is the way forward, not only from engagement, but also for understand the user needs and requirements. We are talking about AI, chat bots and all. How do we?
I think Manohar, I think Sunder is reaching on to talk about bite-sized content and the notice.
Please.
But agree. We take your point. Pooja, one last bit of.
I think nowadays what we need is to embrace and to empathize, as Jaideep mentioned. And actually the users are looking to have more meaningful conversation with the brand rather than simply having, the bombarding of the content that is happening. And as Sunder mentioned, there's a time band of just 3 seconds to make an impact and to convert a customer to a consumer.
Great. Thank you, Pooja. Sunder, the last one bit from you.
Only will be Gar mein creator hai. Just keep watching them. That's it.
Great.
So I think content is everywhere. You just need to close your eyes and, figure it out and understand and create. That's what I can say.
I think great. Thank you so much. I think it's all about, putting up a content, create a bit of aura around it, put some mystique and spread a lot of love around it for the people to consume. I think that's all about content, so to speak. Sapna, over to you. Thank you so much once again, Sapna, for giving us this opportunity. And thank you so much, Exchange for Media. I think it's long overdue to start the digital journey. And I think there can't be a better time than this. Thank you so much, Sapna. Over to you.
Yeah, fantastic. That's right. As our panel members are saying, content is everywhere and content creators are there in every home. One question, very interesting question, is about the voice search now. We have Alexas and Google Assistant and Series, and most of our SEOs are optimized for screen, results through screen. So how is this voice search going to impact content marketing or digital marketing? So your views, Anoop, let's start from you. How do you feel this is going to impact, or is it already impacting?
I think already impacting. I think we are missing the point. It should be like, Alexa, how much time left for this panel discussion? It should come back like yeah, I think we are at the age where connectivity is the essence of everything. I think we are living that age now. You start you start from your home. What you listen on a Spotify or let's say any of this thing that goes into your car to your workstation, everything, and that's one musical journey. But if you talk about any journey, the thing it's connected everywhere. We talk about connectivity, be it instrument, be it this, be it homes in reality and anywhere. But at the same time, I think if I talk about my personal experience now, I ensure that once I'm in a car, I use a lot of voice command. Not that I like it. At times it is irritating if I have people around in the car and I have to apologize to them and say that I'm doing it so that Siri can become better. The AI start kicking in and start understanding my language better, because I know that's the future. So that's what my take to it is.
That's right. Voice searches are very specific. So is it also impacting the SEOs or the way the content is, kind of being designed for the websites, etc.?
Yeah, so 100%. If you look at anything, I think even if you look at the website, so to speak, everything is voice enabled now. If you look at searches, voice enabled now. I think the time has come. If you're traveling anywhere, you don't type anymore. You just, even to a Google map, you just give a command, right? Even to your phone. Right. That's the reality. The biggest challenge, so to speak, when you talk about technology, how good it is, people as a first reaction is always averse from it. People run away because change of any kind, especially technology, is always put you a little backward. So I think this is a time when everyone has to start looking at embracing the change in technology, and I'm sure the voice is there to stay.
Right. So things are changing, evolving constantly. Sunder, your comments on that, how voice searches are changing. Like you mentioned, the attention spans are getting smaller, the screen sizes are getting smaller. So how the voice searches are impacting the SEOs and the digital marketing?
In fact, just not the voice, it's actually going to be audio in various formats that's going to impact. So when there is a time when there is visual commitment to a particular screen, when you don't have that time, that's when audio search and audio listening will take over. Right. And that's the next gap in the market today. So audio listenership already, if you look at some of the pioneers in the market in the lines of Pocket FM or a Cuckoo FM for the matter, some of the digital guys already there, you would have seen that almost close to 32 minutes time spent is already available in audio listening formats. So if there is an audio listening format available, when there is a creation, there has to be a creator. So the creator is going to be audio search, and audio search is obviously going to be the next wave for all of us. And I think some of us have to be prevalent and get it done today. It can't be kept for tomorrow.
So this is one area where we are going to see lot more evolutions or new things happening.
I think it's already evolved. All you need, like I would say that, like Anoop said, that we have to train the AI for various instruction, and I think as idiots we're already doing it for all the foreign companies. Right. So just a matter of one more year and they all will be trained.
Okay, fantastic. For our Jaideep, Gandhi, one question is that should brands and marketeers avoid political and social topics? One line from our other panel members, Mr. Gandhi.
Every time it is relevant to a consumer. Okay, it's making it interesting, it's making it engaging. I think there is no clause that you can't do it. In fact, I would love to add to what Sunder said about Bharat. Like if you see our own Prime Minister, he's the best content creator.
Right.
He's engaged the entire India into one vision. That is content creation. And just wanted to add one more element, if I can, about the voice part which you mentioned. So last week I was in Hyderabad and I was sitting in a cab. cab, and I told him, take me to Gachibowli in this address. I said, Google Pay laga do. So he didn't know English, of course, but he just immediately took his mobile in his hand and just, voiced it out. And he was, the smile which I saw on his face, the pride that I can communicate, I can understand. This is the power of the medium which is going to create. Imagine the funnel which is going to be widened because of the voice.
Right, that's right.
Have so many people connected with those who don't know language.
That's right. So from Pooja, Manohar and Saurabh, the question, should brands avoid political and social topics in their marketing, content marketing? One line before we close this panel. Pooja, starting from you.
I think it is not now. Since inception, if you see Amul, it has been very local in its narrative, and it has always tried to use topical content. If it creates, interest and it's relevant to the audience, then definitely we should continue.
Okay. Manohar, your views on that, quick views there.
Brands should be very sensitive to this subject. We have already seen the recent experiences with Tanishq and a couple of other brands. So again, if it is for a social cause related, there was a political agenda of the ruling government regarding Swachh Bharat, but it is a social cause, so all brands followed it. So therefore, we have to choose the topic, relevant topic, vis-a-vis our brand and vis-a-vis the
relevance and sensitivity. I believe. Saurabh, what do you have to say?
See, as a professional, yes, but as a brand manager, we are always been very, as I said, everyone very sensitive, and we try to choose and circle what we really want to communicate and not. So yeah, on the both side of the stories. Right.
So you would like to have a moment marketing, make use of the topical issues, but also be creative, be sensitive. And yes, as our panel member said, voice searches are something which are going to kind of, again, change a lot of dynamics in the marketing, content marketing. And the takeaway we have got is content is the king and context is the queen. So with that, thank you all our members of this panel so much for being here with us. Anoop for that wonderful moderation of this session. Pooja for being here with us. Sunder, Mr. Jaideep, Gandhi, Manohar and Saurabh for being here, sharing your views and opinions on this very interesting topic of content marketing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.